and welcome to Generally Speaking, the podcast that bridges the worlds of pop culture and personal development. I'm your host, Jennifer Snook. I am so happy to be here with you today. I hope everything has been going well in your world. Here is what's been happening in mine. So you guys, Generally Speaking is growing. There's this thing called Listen Notes, right? And Listen Notes is basically like the Nielsen ratings for podcasts. And last week, Generally Speaking, was in the top 10%. And as of this week, we have made it to the top 5%. So you guys are the only ones I have to thank for that. Without you, we would not be here, because if we weren't growing, I wouldn't keep going. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And while we're on that topic, if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. And if you're just listening on any of the other streaming platforms, please make sure you give us a follow. Anyway, here is what else is happening in my life, you guys. So we are moving. We are like in full packing mode. We found a place. We are moving out by the end of this month. I am so excited about it. It's time for us to make that shift and move on to the next place. And we found a great place, so I'm super excited about it. It's a great house. It has a beautiful backyard. It's closer to work, and I mean closer to work by like 20 minutes, which in LA is basically a half a day. Speaking of work, you guys, so I was at work the other day and I was checking this very sweet girl in, and as we're speaking, all of a sudden her face starts changing and she goes, "Wait a minute, are you?" And she recognized me from Generally Speaking. And for a second, I tried to pretend like that wasn't me, but that felt even worse. So then I told her it was me. We took a picture together, and she only knew me because she is a huge Bravo fan. She's a huge Jersey fan. She's actually from Jersey. And we talked shop for like 20 minutes while she was waiting for her appointment. And she is such a great girl, you guys, that I am bringing her on next week's pod with Christy. We're going to wrap up Jersey all together, and it is going to be so much fun. Her name is Sabrina, so stay tuned for that. We're going to shoot that the day after the Jersey reunion. The whole pod will be all about Jersey. You will not have to wait until next Friday. Okay, what about the Olympics, you guys? Have you been watching? Did you watch that incredible basketball game the other day between the US and Serbia? The game that was to go to the final gold medal game. That was so amazing. The way Steph stepped up, the way LeBron stepped up, and we won that game right at the end. It was so good. Let's check the medal count as it stands this morning. Okay, you guys, the Team USA has 35 bronze, 38 silvers, and 30 golds. But fully leading, you guys. I mean, we are kicking ass. We have 103 total. The next, the number 2 place goes to China, and they only have 74. So Team USA all the way. On another note, and I am so bothered about this, I got a text message from my daughter the other day who was just so upset. She is very good friends with Jamie Lynn Sigler. And I don't know if you guys heard, but Jamie Lynn's poor son, Beau, who my Carly just adores, has really been going through it. He came down with some autoimmune response to just a simple virus and has been in the hospital in just absolute agony, the kind of agony that even like morphine won't take the pain away. And I just cannot imagine your child being in so much pain that all the modern medicine can't stop them from screaming. So anyway, my Carly is just heartbroken for Jamie Lynn and Beau and their whole family, and so am I. And so if you guys believe in the power of prayer and intention, please send some their way, because they could really use it right now. And then there's the JLo and the Ben of it all, and nothing is getting better over there. Apparently now JLo is out looking for new houses without the wedding ring on, or maybe the wedding ring has changed hands, but either way, you guys, it is not looking good. It's also not looking too good over at the Brownstone, where apparently they have an adjacent property that they haven't paid taxes on in years, and now they're behind. Let's see, what is it? $137,000 in back taxes. Hopefully this is just because of an accounting error and not because of financial trouble. On a much brighter note, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but Miss Phaedra is officially coming back to Atlanta. She is holding a peach, and I cannot wait. You know that if Phaedra is holding a peach, things will be juicy. And then there's Dorinda, who apparently is getting her own show based around her infamous Bluestone Manor. And quite frankly, after seeing what she did on that Ultimate Girls Trip as the host, you couldn't pay me to stay there at all. No, thank you. I will pass. If I want to eat a cookie in bed, then I will eat a cookie in bed. Honestly, I think poor Dorinda is one of the least self-aware people that I know. I mean, she is right up there in the Teresa category. And speaking of Teresa, did you see that picture she posted on her story yesterday? She's still on vacation with Louie, but posted this picture I mean, clearly it was very highly filtered, but it looked like she was crying, or at least like she was trying to let us know that she was upset. But we will get into the Teresa of it all, the Louie of it all, the turning the tables of it all later when Christy joins us for Jersey. So stay tuned for that. But before we get to Jersey, let's head on over to the OC, which was just on last night. It's time for a reality check. The show opens with the Dubrows, as per usual, with Heather telling Terry that she got a little tipsy last night, basically because she was so upset. She got knocked off her game by all of those accusations that were coming at her from the new girl, Katie, all those paparazzi rumors. And Terry turns to her and says, listen, I really like my picture being taken by the paparazzi. So what's the number? And quite frankly, I was really thinking about that. Terry does love that. So, I mean, what if it wasn't Heather? What if it was Terry all along? It reminds me of it's like a New Jersey thing. Like everybody thought that it was Marge, but it wasn't. It was really Jackie. Then Shannon goes over to Katie's house and they have a conversation, and Shannon tells Katie that she's just really glad that she didn't have to deal with Alexis at that golf event. Then Tamara and Emily go for a walk, and it's Valentine's Day, and it also happens to be Emily's 15th wedding anniversary. But Emily can't seem to stop talking about Jen. She is very frustrated by her and her lack of, say, ambition. Then back at the Dubrows, Heather tells Terry that she understands this new girl, Katie, talking shit, like if that's gonna be her thing, she gets it. But her real question is why Gina's co-signing that. Then Gina and Jen join Heather for a Galentine's high tea, and after they pick out their face masks, Gina apologizes to Heather for what Katie said and that whole paparazzi narrative that happened. And Heather says, yeah, but now I'm just confused and irritated because you're my friend and I would expect you to stand up for me. Back at Katie's, Shannon tells her that Heather is actually the most sensitive one in the entire group. And then Katie reaches over, grabs her phone to pull out the proof. But the proof ended up being just a text message, so I'm not really sure what that even proves. Back at Heather's, Gina tells her that I really don't feel like this is indicative of who she really is. And then Heather goes back and asks her, well, how long have you known her? And Gina says, for a couple months. I met her through Sutton. And then Heather asks, and when did she give you that information? And Gina says, a couple months ago. And Heather says, well, then why didn't you tell me then? And Gina says, I should have. I didn't. I'm sorry. I made a decision. It was the wrong one. I screwed up. Gina says, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And Heather is clearly annoyed. Then we're at Shane and Emily's anniversary dinner. And I have to tell you, these two as a couple have gotten so much better and so much easier and so much more fun to watch than they used to be. Shane gave Emily a very upgraded engagement ring, and she gave him the most beautiful picture. But as far as I'm concerned, any picture of Emily is beautiful. You know I love her so much. Then we're at lunch with Gina and Katie says to Gina, you know, I really felt abandoned by you. And Gina says, I did have your back, but I also told you not to say anything. And then Gina says, honestly, if I feel like I abandoned anyone, it was Heather. I screwed up, and now she's not talking to either one of us, and I can't do anything to fix it. And then Katie repeats the fact that she did feel abandoned, and then she started to cry. And poor Gina just didn't know what to do. She goes, oh my God, you're crying. I'm sorry. I really am. I'm sorry, but this is tricky for me. Katie keeps crying, and Gina says, I really want this to get better. And Katie says, well, maybe it's just not for a while. Then we're at another lunch, this time with Shannon and her dad, and she's telling him about the fact that she needs to get a new car, but this time one with a breathalyzer. He asks her if she's cutting back on her drinking, and she says, Dad, I hardly even drink. I only ever order two, and just sometimes I don't order a drink at all. And then in confessional, she says, listen, did my family have the big bottle of Almaden Chablis in our refrigerator growing up? Yes, they did, but I come from a fun family. I never saw alcohol being used as a coping mechanism. It wasn't until later on in my life that I learned that it could help. And every time I hear Almaden in any form, I get warm and fuzzy. I grew up in Almaden until I was 7 years old, and that's where my grandparents lived most of my life. I love that place. And then she goes on to tell her dad that John is actually suing her for $75,000 for that facelift. Shannon's dad can't believe it and tells her that she needs to fight it tooth and nail and go for the juggler. Then hell freezes over and Tamara goes to visit Jesus Jugs at her house. Something that all of us old school OC viewers never thought that we'd see happen. Alexis tells Tamara that she is very upset that she didn't get invited to the golf event. And then they start talking about Shannon, and Tamara says that she was such a burden for so long and that her alcoholism really clouded their friendship. Tamara tells Alexis that it feels so strange listening to her talk about John because it that feels so different than the things that Shannon used to say about him. Tamara tells Alexis that Shannon actually admitted the fact that she borrowed that money from John. Tamara thought it was $60,000, but Alexis corrects her and says 75, and that she is not going to let anyone lie on the man that she loves and the man that she's going to marry. And honestly, the whole Alexis thing, just how aggressive she is with the John thing, it just feels weird to me. Alexis says she doesn't want to go to battle, but if you're going to lie on the man that she loves and the man that she's going to marry and ruin their reputation together, now it's their reputation. Alexis says that Shannon's going to need another facelift to pick her jaw up off the floor after she provides the proof. Then all the women get all dressed up and go out to dinner. Everybody's nervous about where to sit. Alexis ends up across from Katie, and as soon as everyone settles, she says to her, "So how was your event?" There was only one person that was omitted, and I'd like to know your thought process. And Katie says, "Listen, I'm sorry you didn't get invited, but I really just wanted Shannon to have a chance to get out and not have that added pressure of having you there." And then right at that moment, Shannon walks through the door with none other than Victoria. 2 minutes after those two take their seats, a waiter comes by to take drink orders. Shannon doesn't know quite what to do, but Vicki looks at her and gives her permission to order a drink. Tamara pipes up and says, "You think that's a good idea?" And Vicki says, "She can drink, she just can't drive." Tamara says, "No, she can't. She's an alcoholic. She shouldn't be drinking at all." And Shannon turns and says, "Listen, every day I wake up, I think about what happened." And Tamara says, "Is that before or after your first drink?" Then Gina, in confessional, in her absolute worst look ever. Listen, I like Gina, but she's had some real funky looks over the years. But this one, you guys, this, I don't know, spacesuit dress that she was wearing with the hair and everything was wrong. Everything was wrong. And honestly, I'm not sure how she thought that was right. Then Shannon starts questioning Tamara's drinking. And then right at that moment, Gina turns to Vicki and says, "So what do you think about this, Vicki?" And Vicki says, "Oh, I just think it's horrible. I think all this fighting is just horrible." And my girl Emily pipes up and says, "What are you talking about? I see you post terrible things about Tamara all the time. When she posted about traitors, you said that was perfect for her because she's a traitor." And she says, "Well, she is." And Tamara says, "I'm not a traitor. I'm not a traitor at all." Tamara says, "I'm a faithful. I just voted you two out." Tamara says, "I just didn't think it was appropriate to continue going forward with a show that was so alcohol-centric when Shannon had just crashed her car into a house because she was drunk. She needed to be going to rehab, not doing shows." And Vicki said, "She did go to rehab." And Tamara says, "No, she didn't. She went to figure out why she dates the wrong guy." And Shannon says, "Stop it. Stop it. I talked to you 2 times." And Tamara says, "Yeah, and you were drunk both times." Shannon says, "I couldn't even drink in my program, Tamara." And Tamara says, "Lies, lies, lies." Tamara says, "You told me that you paid for everything with John, but now I find out that you owe him $70,000. And Alexis pipes up and says, 75. Then the producer asks Alexis, "How are you so sure that what he's telling you is true?" And Alexis says, "I'm confident in everything that John says because I watch his actions and we're together 24/7. Meanwhile, Shannon is out in the hallway feeling fully humiliated. Jen with two N's comes out to check on her, and Shannon says, "I hate this. I hate this." And Jen says, "I am sure you do." Then she says to her, "You have no idea the stories I could tell about John Jansen. You have no idea." And then to camera, she says, "Oh, John, what I could say, what I could release." She says, "He's a monster." And then the producer says, "What exactly makes John such a monster?" And Shannon said nothing. Meanwhile, Tamara and Vicki have a sidebar, and Tamara tells Vicki that she's not the reason that she didn't continue on with the Trace Amigas, that the sole reason she backed out was because of Shannon. And then Jesus Jug says that she is no longer dealing with liar face. She said she's been poking the bear, and now she's poking me. And then she followed it up with that dumb, obnoxious laugh that she does, and Heather looked at her and told her to tone it down. Heather says, "You might want to take it down just a notch." Then Alexis says, "Listen, I want to get to know her and like her." And Emily says, "Listen, you can't say that you want to get to know someone and like them and then be bringing receipts at the same time. It just doesn't work like that." Then Alexis says, "Listen, if you're going to talk about my guy and lie about my guy, then I'll bring even more receipts." Then Vicki stands up and starts giving a sermon about kindness and how you're supposed to treat people when you're a woman of faith. "And I know you all believe in God. This is not the way that we're supposed to be treating each other." My girl Emily about chokes and says, "Roll that beautiful Vicki footage." And then there's a montage of some of Vicki's greatest hits. And then they cut back to her and she says, "You need to be kind." And Tamara says, "Stop enabling her." And she says, "I'm not enabling her." Tamara says, "She's an alcoholic." Vicki says, "I gotta go. Try to be nicer." And Tamara says, "Love you." So maybe there's hope for those two after all. All right, enough of the California crazy. Let's call Christy and head on over to Jersey. Okay, good morning, Chris.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, big day here. So the season is almost over,
The end
right?
of an
It is
era.
almost the end of Jersey. I cannot believe. I mean, I feel like the season really flew by, don't you?
Yeah, I let my hair air dry today in honor of Teresa and Jen Aiden
Jen,
going natural.
you're rocking your natural curls. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, but before we get into Jersey, anything on Jeff Lewis?
Jeff Lewis unfollowed Megan, and
Oh, so it's official.
it's official, and she's been hanging out with Stu. But I also saw, and I'm not really, I can report more next week. There's big stuff happening behind the scenes of there's something. She may have had a DUI. He may have spoke about it last night at he did a show in Arizona. There's a lot of stuff
Oh, he
happening.
better be careful because I feel like that could get really dirty really fast.
Yeah, and it's happening. I've been sent a lot of screenshots of stuff from my bestie, and I need to talk with her today because
I feel like I can sense a slander. Yeah, a cease and desist. Is that what you're going to say? Yeah, or a slander lawsuit on the horizon.
Bo Dietl, get ready.
Oh my God. Speaking of things that you've been sent, I was just sent a couple of days ago this whole stack of documents on Louie and Vanessa, on these psychologist papers. It's weird. I have to disseminate it all. I've had so little time that I haven't even really, you know what I mean? I haven't really looked at it.
Who sent it to you?
Well, I don't want to say her
Jackie?
name. No.
Jackie? Yeah, exactly. You can't say the name, but wow, I can't wait for you to dissect and report.
I know. I'll send it to you. You can help me. Okay, so Jersey, what an episode. Holy shit, what an episode.
Holy shit is right.
Right?
Oh my God.
And I feel like the episode, like, truthfully, I feel like there were like two scenes, the only two scenes that really mattered. It was the one at Margaret's house when Dolores came over, and then what happened at the end. Everything else,
Last Supper.
kind of, yeah, the Last Supper. So after 14 seasons, here we are. Honestly, I could make me emotional. So the episode opens with Messy Fessy going over to see Marge, and she's telling her about her very messy move. Marge says, "Guess what? I pulled a real stunt." Fessler says, "Oh God, what does that even mean? Do I even want to know?" And Margaret's like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, you want to know. This was great."
Yeah.
And it was great. She says, "I sent a gift over to the Margaret Joseph's burn event." Jen says, did you get approval from Joe? And she says, "I didn't need approval. I thought it was very, very funny."
Funny. And it
was funny. It was so funny.
It was one of the greatest moves.
So then Marge pulls her phone out and shows her a picture and says, it was a very pretty funeral arrangement. And Jen says, "A funeral arrangement?"
Jen says, "Get the fuck out of here, Marge."
And that, yeah, which was a great response. But then she goes, "Isn't that a little, what was the word she used?" She goes, isn't a funeral arrangement kind of morbid?" And honestly, that really annoyed me. Because are we really going to go, it wasn't morbid? No, there was nothing morbid about it.
No.
It was the opposite of morbid.
It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, Marge goes, "No, it's fucking hilarious." And I thought that you would find the sense of humor in it. That's like, imagine if if I did something like that and you go, "That's kind of morbid." So I would be morbid, like, "Are you okay?"
Right.
I mean, it's true.
This whole episode with Fessler, though, I don't know if she can stay on this bull for much longer.
Well, truthfully, she can't. I feel like she belongs in, like, I don't know, the Real Housewives of, I don't know, Connecticut or something. You know what I mean? She's just like, I don't know. She doesn't have the guts to hang with these girls. She doesn't. She failed out of that goddamn party. Not to jump ahead or anything, but I couldn't believe that.
Right. And she was a host also.
She was one of the hosts. Margaret says that when someone does something so absurd, they deserve an absurd response. And then, and she's completely right. And then she says, "And Jackie's dead to me too, but she doesn't even deserve an arrangement."
Exactly. Yeah.
And I love that. Sure. She goes on to say, Margaret says, Jackie is the biggest hypocrite in my entire world, and I'm glad I learned now. And then she goes on to say that she doesn't give a shit what's said at the Margaret Joseph's burn event because she doesn't operate in the shadows. She's very forthright about what she does, and she owns all of her shit.
Always.
That's what you have to love about Marge.
Yeah. Besides her awesome house.
Her awesome house. It is fucking awesome. Marge says, but I will tell you that when I see them, I will be dropping some bombs.
Yeah, big bombs. And then now Dolores calls and says, Margaret, I'd love to come sit with you.
Hello, Marge. What was
with the gloom and doom?
What was the life or death of that whole thing? Hello,
and she had,
I'm coming to sit with you. Like, what in God's name?
Yeah.
And so then she shows up and sits down looking so very serious, right? And those two are just having a grand old time, and fucking Buzzkill shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Then Margaret says to Dolores after a little bit of small talk, so how was the burn event? And Dolores says, it wasn't a burn event. It was just her explaining about everything that her and Louie have been through in the last 2 years regarding the ex and how much anxiety it's caused them and how much it's affected their lives.
And about Marge, on how she was subpoenaed and show up, and she had all this proof on Marge. So.
Yes, she says, and she feels, Margaret, like you're a co-conspirator with the ex. And Margaret says, that's a bunch of bull. I didn't even talk to her before New York. I didn't know her before New York. And the first year that they were together, I didn't know her at all. And I fully believe that.
Yeah, these timelines kill me. All these timelines on New Jersey, the November 2021 and da-da-da. But...
I know. I mean, I really think, just to keep it simple, Marge didn't have anything to do with Vanessa until she had to, until Louie forced the hand because of his own psychotic behavior, bringing Bo Dietl into the whole equation. That was when she reached out to Vanessa, which who wouldn't?
And it showed proof on their camping trip when she says, I never even said anything, Teresa. His exes said he was physical and whatever he was. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and speaking of that, there's a lot of that, him being physical. There's a lot of sex in those papers that I told you I was sent. There's a lot.
Police reports.
I really need to sit down with these papers and read through them.
I can't believe this. I can't believe this, but wow.
And Margaret says, I've only ever even talked to her on DMs. I've never even had a phone conversation, right? Which seems strange. You would think that at that point she would at least, what's wrong with Marge having a phone conversation with her? You know, she doesn't need to hide in the DMs.
No, she said, I've seen her once at a party, but yeah,
I mean, truthfully, I've had a phone conversation with Vanessa, so I don't understand how Margaret hasn't. If I was all of those girls, I probably would have at that point. And then, so Dolores says, you know what I'm just so concerned about? I just don't understand, Margaret, why? Why do you even want to talk to her? Like, why is Dolores confused about that? Why is Dolores confused about I'm really just rattled by Dolores in this whole entire episode.
I don't know, because it's like trying to stand behind Teresa in some way.
She says, why would you do that, Marge? To what? To validate something? And Margaret says, yes, absolutely. To validate all that Bo Dietl shit. Absolutely. She says, what they did to my son? And come on.
Anyone turns into a savage beast if anything does anything to our children.
Exactly. And of all people in the world, Dolores can't understand that. If somebody was coming at Frankie Jr., calling his prestigious place of work, harassing him, Dolores would go after their throat with her teeth.
Exactly. Right? And this is what she just does to Marge coming up.
It's unbelievable. Margaret says, I'm not going back and forth about this. And Dolores says, me either. I'm tired of this whole thing, Margaret. And Marge says, well, I would never hold a burn summit. And Dolores says, well, Teresa did mention that summit that you had before New York.
Right. And Dolores flips her lid, saying that why did she go crazy?
Well, because Margaret said before that, but that wasn't a burn summit. That was a pre-reunion.
Reunion.
Yeah.
Right.
Which also was on the heels of the Bo Dietl thing.
Right. So she had to get her eggs in order to go into this reunion for this.
I mean, I'm sorry. If you have one new guy who's bringing in a private eye to check you all out, is that really out of the realm that you're all going to gather together against this common enemy? No.
Right. And so Dolores is like, you never invited me to this.
Yeah. What is thanks for the invite, she told her. Thanks for the invite.
With fire in her eyes.
Chris, I mean, did you see her? She went code 5 crazy on Margaret.
In 1 second.
In 1 second. It's not like it escalated to that point. That really bothered me, the way Dolores just defaulted to such a wicked stance with Margaret, like instantly.
Yeah, Margaret's like, I did invite you. I think you were at lunch with Jen and Teresa.
And given Dolores's behavior, doesn't it only make sense that she would have said, no, I don't want to come to that. She probably didn't want Teresa to know that she was a part of it. So she probably did turn it down. And now she's just like caught between a rock and a hard place and panicking, I think.
Yeah, she went at Marge. The way that she went at Margaret was like,
she called her an effing lying C word.
I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it.
I know.
Not a stupid bitch.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which would have been bad enough.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Like Alexis Bellino, that's her big thing, calling Shannon now. Liar face. Liar face.
Oh. I need to watch last night's episode.
I'm telling you, the Alexis of it all is too much for me. Oh my God, Johnny. Oh my God.
Johnny J.
I'm Alexis. Too much.
It's still unbelievable also, right? That Alexis Bellino's with John Jansen. Watching it unfold is amazing.
But then as soon as that thing escalated into the you're a effing C, next thing you know, did you see Jen? Fessler's in the corner, like rocking back
with her. I know.
She's like in full panic with her wine. Like, what's happening?
The wine that she hated. Remember, she was just dissing the wine in the beginning too.
And Dolores actually got up. She was going to leave. She was that hot.
This is too much for me to handle.
Yeah. And then thank God Fessler pulled her head out of her ass and said, okay, girls, come on, let's gather ourselves and reset.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God. That's the only productive thing she's done, honestly. And then next thing you know, right after that reset, 10 seconds later, they were in a cuddle puddle.
A triple group hug.
Group hug, which, I mean.
Yeah.
What goes up must come down, I suppose.
Yeah, that was a wild scene.
But before that, Margaret at least expressed herself to Dolores. Did you see her? She said, we're good friends. I'm really hurt that you would talk to me like that.
Yeah, she was offended.
Yeah, she said, I feel like I might cry. And Dolores, don't cry. But I don't understand. I would have probably cried too, because that felt like a fucking attack.
It was.
Especially when I'm sure that Margaret was feeling like she's the one that's been attacked. You know what I mean? And why would her best friend be coming at her like that?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you why. Because Dolores's true loyalty
is to Teresa.
For some bizarre reason.
Old friendship.
Yeah. You know the kind.
So now we're at the Fudas with Melissa, Danielle, and Fuda's wife. What is her name?
Rachel. There's a lot of names.
Yeah.
There's a lot of names.
Melissa comes up to him and is hugging him and saying, I'm so glad you didn't die at my house the other night.
Yeah, exactly. And when he got those Teresa lips because of the bone bra. And Rachel's trying to look like Teresa.
And Rachel's explaining how he went and got all these allergy tested done. And the one thing that they got from it is maybe one of the pieces of the bone marrow got stuck in his throat. And that's what happened.
I think they're just trying to come up with something because he showed absolutely no allergies. So it didn't make sense. So they're looking for some other reason that caused that. But that was such a bizarre thing.
Yeah, and scary. And the way that the reaction was, I'm Italian. We don't go to the ER.
Yeah, Vicks. I need Vicks and ice, remember? Yeah. Then Melissa says to camera, it's not just Louie's ex. It's everyone in his life, anyone that has ever been in Louie's life has approached us, right? She says that she was even at a restaurant down at the shore, and a girl that used to be Louie's niece came up to her and said, you should really watch out for yourself because he's big trouble.
Yeah. This is a Dear John.
It really is. Then over at Nate and Danielle's, it's pumpkin carving time. And Nate said something that really kind of shocked me. He said that he got invitations that he had to work, but if he had chosen, he said he would have gone to Louie's.
I know. That really.
I know. I'm like,
I
really?
went, huh? Why?
Why is right. Then it's time for the big face-to-face, and everybody's focused on what to wear.
Of course.
What are you gonna wear? What are you gonna wear? I'm going mob wife.
Mob wife.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Dolores tells Polly that she has no idea how the day will go.
And now we're at Teresa or Louie's house.
Yeah, exactly.
This happens.
Oh my God. And he says, so, babe, what's your plan today for navigating around Margaret? And she says, I don't have a plan, babe. I'm not strategic like that. And he says,
I know you're not.
I know you're not. I know. What is he? I'm telling you something. He's too, I say it all the time, but he really is too much for me. What is that voice? Voice.
You know, before we do our podcast and I sleep at night, I dream about it, right? Because you're thinking about, and screwy Louie. I always hear you, screwy Louie. He's screwy, dark Louie.
He really is. And then he goes, just let it flow. He goes, just let it flow. Tell her to stay away from our family. And you know what? I hope Margaret and her family suffers. I hope her son suffers like I've suffered dealing with a woman like her. What?
This blew up the world.
What?
He says, dirty dog.
He is such a pig. He says, she's a disgusting, vile human being. She's a real piece of garbage. And if she doesn't apologize to you, she's not even worth you sitting in front of, Teresa.
And Teresa just eats this up and just...
She hangs on every
word.
And then he says, so today you just kiss and hug and adore the women that adore you. And the rest, you just let them be. Like Rachel, she's just like her husband, a bottom feeder. It won't be long before people see his true colors. And true colors,
Looney, screwy Louie.
Who in God's name is he to talk about true colors? Someone tell me that.
I know, right? It's...
Oh my God. And then he says, and your sister-in-law, she's not even worth 1/10 of a second of your time. 1/10 of a second. She's not even worth 1/10 of a second of your time. And Teresa says, yeah, and like my brother, you know, he knows me. He knows me really well. And he knows
yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
And the way she tries to talk about the fact that she did her parents a real favor by keeping the peace. Right?
It's so delusional.
She really forgets the fact that we all saw her and Joe and Melissa having a very peaceful, fun relationship, even after her parents left. When that summer that they were down at the shore together, all spending time together.
I know.
She's Lulu.
Yeah. Until she met Louie. Until she met Louie while walking down the street.
Teresa says, I won't say forever, because that's not the kind of thing you say. And but that's so Teresa. It's not about because it's the right thing. It's just what you say. It's just not right to say that. You know what I mean? It's not like she doesn't.
What you truly live.
Yeah, it's not like she's saying, I really hope that someday things can get back on track. She's just saying, I'm not saying forever because you're not supposed to say forever.
Right.
And then they started showing flashbacks of the Gorgas and the way they used to be. And then I started literally, and that's the point where I got teary, and I'm embarrassed to say how many tears I cried during this. I could cry right now talking. It's so horrible.
It is horrible. It is horrible. It's
horrible. I'm really bothered.
I know. And for us not to be able to see Joey Gorga continuing on this
really pisses me off. I might need just a Joey Gorga show. Like, honestly.
And can I say all these commercials? Everyone's in commercials now.
But Teresa and Louie aren't, and I know that has to be driving them crazy. Right? You know that Teresa and Louie are annoyed that they got a Rao's, that's how you say it, right? Rao.
Yeah, Joe, yeah.
R-A-O,
Pasta
Rao's. Yeah,
sauce.
that pasta sauce eating Teresa up, I am sure.
Yeah.
Then we're over in Joe and Melissa's kitchen, and that was emotional too.
She asks him if he's wearing his dad's watch.
Yes. Yes, and he was, and he says, yeah, he left it for me. And you can tell Melissa is a good wife to him, and she has been so supportive of that family in so many ways.
Yeah.
Then Joe does a quick rewind, I can't say that word, of everything that Teresa and Louie have put them through, and very seriously says to Melissa, how do you ever trust her again?
Yeah.
Right? And how does he?
Heartbreaking.
And then we're at rails.
We're at rails.
Again.
And
did you see all the women walked in and Teresa was the last to get there? And when she got there, she was looking like a rail herself. I mean, Teresa's never been thinner. Did you see that?
Yeah. And
I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. Stress and not good. And it's funny that they're in the mosaic room, and a mosaic is made out of broken glass.
Yep. Yes, exactly. But as they walk in, this was like Montage City, this whole episode. And then they show all of the other dinner parties past.
Yeah, that had happened in this
same restaurant.
Right.
Then Teresa walks in and says, I'm not sitting here, even though Dolores was so strategic about where she sat.
The place settings.
Yeah. She says, I'm not sitting here. I'm trying to stay calm today. And if I sit here, Marge is going to end up wearing my drink. Such a bitch.
Yeah. Now they let Danielle and Jen have the floor so they can make their stuff great. Danielle goes in on how, about the charity that she did. And someone needs to stop this and go, who gives a shit about this charity shit anymore? This is exactly what they're fighting about.
And did you hear what a bitch Jen was? Oh, she says, I get it. You're hustling everybody for things because you can't afford it. That's okay.
You want my life.
She says, you want my life. And Danielle says, the last thing I want is your life. At least I know when my husband comes home, he's so excited to see me when he walks through the door. And she goes, who? Your husband with the boobs?
Who wears a bra?
She said, you wear the bra. He's got the boobs. You wear the bra. And then Danielle jumps over the table. And then I felt like we were back in junior high school.
Yeah, she threw a picture.
Back at the cafeteria table.
And I love Danielle, and I hate when she gets like this, because it's like she could stay calm and say, well, at least my husband doesn't live in the pool house, or, there's so many things she could have came back with. But yeah, she lost her shit. She's had enough.
She lost her shit, jumped over the table. And then did you see Teresa instantly jump up and try to defend Jen? Mm-hmm. And then Teresa turns to Danielle and goes, why'd you do that? I mean, come on.
And Melissa says, she's learned it from you.
Oh, please. You're the queen of that shit, Melissa says. And then fuck you. No, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Whore, my brother married. Did you see that?
And then you see him with their standoff.
Goes off.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that? Hilarious. Yeah. And they were both so serious.
It was amazing. And she called her a whore, and she says, I'll tell Antonia that you called me that.
Yeah.
Melissa couldn't stay out of it. Melissa just...
I mean, but truthfully, imagine that. You can imagine calling your niece's mom a whore. Your nephew's mom a whore.
Right.
She's all about family, but she can't support her brother's wife.
No, because she lives on a lie.
Because she's on planet Delulu. Then Danielle heads off to the bathroom to go and gather herself, and she meets Teresa in the hallway. And Teresa says, tried to make it all about Marge. And Danielle says, it's not about you, Teresa. This isn't about you.
Oh, yeah. Teresa. She was like, well, you see what Marge is, she brings up Marge.
Like, that's all. It's all she knows how to default to.
Right. She can't help herself.
And then back at the table, Jen Fessler's doing a B, aggressive.
Yeah.
Be aggressive.
Aggressive. She can't take it.
So funny.
She's like, I need to leave here. This is more than I can handle.
And she dipped out.
And she did.
And did you see Jen Aiden was like,
Jen
what are you
Aiden.
talking about? You're leaving?
Yeah. You're one of the people that put this event together.
I could not believe that. Then once everybody returns to the table, everybody except Jen Fessler, then that's when the shit really starts. Teresa calls Margaret a vile person.
A vile person.
And Margaret says, maybe Teresa has something to say to me. I'll gladly listen. Teresa says, you know exactly what you've been doing, and so do I. I have all the facts. And Margaret says, I love facts too. I have them, Teresa. So do I. March of 22, after you guys spoke to Laura, was the first time I ever spoke to the ex. Teresa says, she's lying.
She's lying. Yeah.
Yeah, she's lying. Margaret says, let me speak. And Teresa says, she's lying. You got subpoenaed. I prove you wrong. Teresa says, she's lying through her teeth. We subpoenaed her and she didn't show up. Then Margaret says, how would you feel if you found out that she came to my house? Did you see the way she just slipped in that
baiting her?
If you came to my house. And Teresa goes, she probably did.
Yeah, she keeps referring to that smear campaign, you know, the meeting that Margaret had before. She keeps talking about that as if it's something big.
Exactly. Yeah, that smear campaign that basically he started on himself, but she just doesn't have the insight to understand that.
And if Margaret had all this information, she would have let everybody know this whole season.
Exactly. Exactly. And then Margaret goes, I don't need to smear your husband. He does a good enough job of that himself.
Yeah.
And she goes, and Teresa goes, you're so full of shit. That's why you married a plumber.
Right. Hello, Joe. Your husband was a contractor.
Your husband was a contractor. And Margaret
says,
goes, I'll fuck the plumber all day. And by the way, your dad was a
cobbler. You fucking
Nimrod. Teresa says, you're full of shit. You were trying to ruin my family with all these false accusations. And Teresa says, it was proven that my husband didn't do those things. And Rachel says, do you ever think that maybe your husband isn't being honest with you?
Yeah, so Fuda goes at Teresa and says, you need to keep my husband's name out of your mouth. But she went crazy, you know, keep my fucking husband's name out of your mouth.
Then Teresa says, you're such a joke. Dolores, that was Dolores's big, you know, scolding of Teresa. It went like this, Teresa. I mean, that's as tough as she gets with Teresa. Teresa. And Teresa goes, yes, honey. Yes, honey.
And now it's Margaret's time to speak.
And Margaret takes the floor and says, wait a minute. You guys tell me if this makes sense. Right before the Warrior video came out, Teresa says, oh yeah, it came from you. You did it. And Marge says, no. Teresa says, yes, it was you. And Margaret says, no, but just before you came out, Jackie had Vanessa over at their house.
And Jackie's like, no, not me. I didn't do nothing.
Did you see everybody's face?
That was
everybody. There was... And Jackie, you could see a million. Couldn't you just see all of the confusion behind Jackie's eyes? Yeah, like I knew in that second, there was no doubt that indeed what Margaret was saying, every word of it was true, just by that panic that washed over Jackie.
And Jackie's a smart girl, and she tried.
She really did try. And then what did she? And then she yelled.
She says, "What are you talking about?
What you say? Something like, "You're a fucking liar, Margaret."
Yeah, she says, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" Teresa says, "You're a liar." And Melissa asks Marge how she knows this. And Marge says, "I found out last week." And Jackie says, "You're trying to make this about me instead of you."
Yes, exactly. And Marge says that she reached out to Vanessa about the Marge hate meeting with James Leonard. And when Vanessa learned that Jackie was attending, it was then that she told Marge that, well, that doesn't make sense because Jackie actually had me over to her house years ago.
And you could see Jen Aiden also loving this because she hates Jackie.
Yes, and then she went on to say right before the Warrior video surfaced.
Yeah. And that's
And then Melissa says to Jackie, "Hey Jackie, if this is true, you should probably be honest about it because I'm sure there's proof and you're going to be found out."
right.
You could see when she made the decision in her head, like I have
Right.
to
Like,
say something.
I'm gonna come.
I have to cough up to this.
Right. And so she says, I met up with her. We hated each other. You went after my husband, and I was scared to tell you, but you know what, I'm glad that you know, and she's glad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Off her
Marge
shoulders.
interjects and says, and it wasn't me. Everything that came out was from her. And Jackie snaps, shut the fuck up. And Marge says, no, you let it come on me. And she's not wrong. I mean, Jackie let Marge take all the heat for that shit. And that was so wrong.
For a long time.
A long time. Then Jackie says to camera, listen, here's more dates. It was February of 21, and that season opened with me and Teresa. And the whole world was weighing in on whether or not my husband was cheating on me. Teresa and Jennifer were trying to get information from people on my husband. And then here comes this woman saying that I've got something for you to put in your pocket. So that if Teresa were to say to me, your husband did this, then I could say, well, your husband did this. That's the game. That's the game we were playing.
And Teresa is just like a deer in headlights.
A deer in headlights. And Margaret says, you're nothing but a snake.
Yeah.
Everybody, and everybody is in shock.
Everyone's in shock.
I mean, shell shock, fully. And Danielle says, it was Jackie all along.
Yeah, he goes to her.
And then she says, I'm glad I only invited her to one party.
Right.
I really am. I'm not going to lie.
She's so funny. I love
She's
her.
Hilarious. Margaret says, this is before the Warrior video came out. And Margaret looks at Teresa and says, she put it all out. She put it out. You subpoenaed the wrong bitch.
Totally.
I had nothing to do with it. And Teresa says, you didn't put it in the media? And Marge says, no, on my son's life. And now Jackie's in a full panic saying, I don't even know how to put anything in the media. Jackie tries to say that she doesn't even know how to put it out into the media.
Which is a bunch of bullshit, because remember when she was first on the show, she wrote the article about Jen Aiden's house and her parenting.
Yes, that's right.
Bullshit, Jackie.
She did. Do you remember that? Wow,
Jackie
you just unlocked a memory for me.
Right? Jackie knows how to put shit
She
out.
absolutely knows how to put stuff out.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not also forget that she has a book out. At this time during the show, her book is out.
Right now.
She's going to try and say like she doesn't have connections in the media? Please. Yeah. At this point, Teresa looks like she's in shock. And Dolores says, Teresa, did you hear what Jackie just said to you? Are you clocking this? Are you okay with that? And Teresa says, yes, I'm fine with it. Which she's fine with it.
Yeah.
Fine with it.
And then Melissa says,
insane. But with Teresa's twisted logic, you kind of understand why she's okay with it. Because, you know,
of course,
she subscribes to the Godfather mentality.
Of course.
So it's tit for tat, you know, so she thought I was going at her, so it makes sense that she was coming for me.
Of course. And Melissa says, really? Because you can't get over the sprinkle cookies.
Not wrong. Margaret says, I wish I knew about Jackie before. You're pathetic. And Jackie says, oh, stop it, Margaret. You're just trying to take the heat off of you. And Margaret says, there is no heat on me. And
There's
like,
nothing.
there is not, because truthfully, right, at this point,
Margaret's clean.
Margaret's clean. 100%. You're just trying to take the heat off of me, or just trying to take the heat off of you, please. Then Dolores says, I think we've said all we need to say.
And Melissa
agrees. Yeah. And everybody stands up. The ladies get up to leave. Melissa, Marge, Danielle, and Rachel all walk out, still absolutely gobsmacked about that it was Jackie, wondering how in God's name did Bo Deedle, you know what I mean?
She said, how did Bo Deedle
on the Jackie of it all.
Right? And Dolores said she's shitting her pants right now. She needs a fucking diaper in the car that Jackie does.
And you know she's right.
And you see Jackie walking out, and her walk looks like she did shit her pants. She's going to be on Depends commercial.
I mean, what was that? I mean, I was wondering, was that always her gait? It was a strange walk, wasn't it?
Really, I think it is, but
It was a shame-filled walk, a shame-filled walk. That was the walk of shame. That was the true walk of shame.
And this is going to be her ending on the show, is her walking around with this weird shit walk and looking around the corner and hiding, and then hiding. Right?
Melissa says, today's meeting was a complete failure. Everyone is walking out with zero resolution. And then everyone drives away. And Dolores is left sitting there. And she says, family is everything, but this group is no longer a family.
Yeah, it was very.
And then, well, and then they start flashing back to all those memories. And then I was just a fucking puddle. I was a wreck. So sad. So sad and so pissed at these stupid, stubborn women who brought us to this point.
Louie brought us to this point.
But even before Louie, it's Teresa and her selfish, spiteful spirit. Because truthfully, if Teresa had a different spirit, she wouldn't allow somebody like Louie you wouldn't be able to. That's where she sits. You know what I mean? She's rooted in the wrong stuff. And Louie just inflames that. Dolores says, how did it all come to this? It came out of really just people not knowing how to stop hating. It's just built up and everybody cuts so deep, like it's just so toxic. I look at this sit down like a death. And it was like a death caused by Teresa's and Louie's toxic, spiteful, selfish spirits. That's just it. Teresa not how to share, selfish. And you know, I was thinking about it. I think all of us were kind of so invested in Jersey in a different way than we were in any of the other franchises, just because there is such a family component. And I think every human being knows that families are complicated and stuff happens. And I think that that is exactly why the world has been behind the whole Gorga family and wanting them to work it out so bad, because it's like a little insight into everybody's family has problems on some levels. And everybody is hoping that these guys could work it out, probably because it would represent, you know what I mean? A level
of hope
in their own family, right? So everybody's cheering for family, but wasn't enough.
No. What an ending, though. What an ending.
And then we had all of the public backlash and reaction to what went down with Louie. And so because of it, he wrote that ridiculous apology. Did you see that?
Yeah. What he's apologizing for what he said about Margaret's son.
Yes.
While they're vacationing in, where are they? Greece?
Oh, they've been all over the place. They were in Greece. They were in Spain. They're all over the place. He says, the finale was very tough for me to watch, and I wanted to address it with you all. After watching the finale, I was disappointed in my actions in bringing up Margaret Joseph's son. The reason he was even brought up, like the reason doesn't matter. Right. So is this an apology or is this not?
Right. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Just apologize.
The reason he was even brought up was because I have been dealing with being falsely accused of calling Margaret's son at his work, which is simply not true. For the last year, Margaret kept putting this narrative out there that I called her son at work, and I've had to deal with it knowing that I'm being lied on. Lied on. Who says that? I'm being lied on. Who says I'm being lied on? Firstly, grammatically, it doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
You don't get lied on.
Right.
You're lied about. You're not lied on. Still, I know better not to bring up someone's child, and it's something I deeply regret. So I do want to apologize and acknowledge that I was wrong. There's been a lot of toxicity on the show that has affected everyone on the show. We have been dealing with a lot of frustrating things behind the scenes, and it has been very hard for our entire family and my children, who have been really impacted by all that has happened at the hands of certain people. Two wrongs don't make a right, and I deeply regret saying what I said. Wah, wah.
Yeah, he's just a wordplay.
So then there was the turning the tables of it all.
The
And
untold love story
the untold love story, right? Which
episode.
it's very coincidental that and lucky that they were releasing that when they were, but it did coincide with their love fest trip that they're on and their second anniversary.
To celebrate their anniversary.
But it is so diluted. I mean, did you see it? Even
yeah,
you watched it, right?
I did. It was
hard to stomach. How do you even wrap your head around it?
I'm
not going to go through the whole thing, but like I really like this line where Louie said, you know, even my sister said that if I end up with you,
yes,
she said, Louie, if you end up with her, she's going to take care of you your entire life.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's the second time I've heard him say that. And Teresa is just so naive. She just takes that and thinks that it's wonderful. But the sister knows her brother.
Yeah.
Right?
And,
the sister knows her brother. And apparently there's trouble in the Ruelas family now that they're not speaking to the sisters. That relationship has
yeah. I didn't know this.
Louie goes on to say, I was intimidated by that because I didn't think I deserved you because I went through a lot of shit in relationships. You know, they say in life that you have two partners. And you know what I really and that's true. I mean, I think a lot of times you do. I think like Teresa had Joe, right? She had Joe.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, you have the kids, you have the family, you're in the grind of life. And also, I really think that part of the reason why Teresa fell so hard for Louie is because I think she had a sexual awakening around Louie.
Of course she did.
Yeah, you know, because
it's why she's eating all the pineapple.
It's why she's eating all the pineapple. In some of these documents, Louie's talking about how he's hypersexual and obsessed with sex and, you know, pushing the boundaries of sex. Imagine you're Teresa and you've only had jackrabbit sex with Joe. No, really, because
I know.
You can imagine Joe Giudice is jackrabbit.
I just did. I just did.
Hey, babe, come on. I got to get this poison out of me. 3 pump chomp. Let's go. Okay.
Right.
Right. And then she meets Louie, Mr. Sensual, who's opening her up to all kinds of stuff. She is fully under a sex spell. She is under a Louie sex spell. I'm convinced of it.
I totally agree. And he was talking about, you know, when they first met, how he said, you know, Teresa and I first met and I didn't want us to have sex for 4 to 5 months. And she goes,
such a crock of shit.
Yeah, she even said, I don't think it was that long. But then
I know.
He goes on
because he's always trying to fucking manipulate the narrative. He's such
manipulation for sure.
He doesn't even know how to stop. That's the thing. He's the kind of guy, he's just he's so pathological. Yeah, he's pathological.
He's Dear John, for sure.
100%. Then he goes on to talk about his ex-wife, Marissa, and I just want her to know that it wasn't her fault. And he starts crying. Did you see all the tears?
Yeah, and he was saying there was blame. I put blame on myself and her, but I think it was wrongly, you know, that it was wrong that he put it on her, as he's realizing later.
And then he tells Teresa they're going to make a movie about you because you're iconic. I'm so obsessed with you. I love you. I honor you so much. You're so amazing. They're going to make a movie about you, about your life because you're iconic.
Right. And he talks about how they go out to dinner with his ex-in-laws, and you know, he said, and Teresa says, you know, he doesn't want her to call them the ex-in-laws. You could call them your in-laws, and how Teresa gets along with the ex also, and how amazing that is.
Yeah, exactly. And then Teresa, oh my God. And then Louie tells her that the reason people gun so hard for her and for him is because she's a unicorn. Do you know what that means? And she goes, I've heard of it. And he goes, oh, you're so cute. He goes, I love you. She says, what does it mean? And he says, a unicorn is something that doesn't exist. Oh, okay. You're an anomaly. You're a needle in a haystack. She says, yeah, I'm unique. And Teresa says, You're famous in my world because you're so smart and what you've achieved in business. You know, the fact that you pushed the button at Wall Street. And he says, it's not all about that. I, like you, am self-made. I built a massive company. I've made millions of dollars. I've traded billions of dollars, but I've never had that feeling I have today, waking up next to you. And he's crying again.
Crying. And he says, you're happy every day that you wake up.
I've had tons of success, but I've never in all those days woken up feeling like I do today. Just so full of purpose because of you, because of you. And then he goes on and he talks about happiness and how all these other people try to get happiness all these other ways, but he wakes up every day happy because he's with Teresa.
And that,
But really, it just kind of begs the question. So if Teresa was gone, if Teresa disappeared, would you no longer be happy, Louie? Right? Is your happiness dependent on Teresa? Because really, that's no different than what he's saying for those other people. Like they have to go and get their happiness other places.
elsewhere.
If
Right.
your happiness doesn't live inside of you, then you're depending on Teresa, just like those other people are depending on other things. And this whole thing goes on and on and on, and all they do is blow smoke up each other's asses and
He spoke mostly. And she just got
ate it up.
Yeah.
Of course he spoke mostly.
There is a part that he talks about, the girls being young and
Oh, yeah.
that they should wear these thongs and show
Yes.
your legs, girls.
Yes, because he asked Teresa what she would do differently. And she says that she'd go more places and do more things and just live life more. And, that's why I tell the girls, wear that thong, wear that bikini.
Wear your stepdad telling you, wear that thong, show your legs. So you know what? It's off of their podcast this morning. If you go to whatever minute that it was, Teresa took it down. So they
Shut up.
Yeah, so they have someone doing PR for them right now going.
Well, of course, her producer.
Of course, because
the producer that apparently told her that, oh, this podcast is just so much better. She's so much more relaxed. She's having so much more fun.
Yeah. And that's what Louie said, that's, turning the tables. That was your pivotal moment. But yeah, so it's taken down today, but we've all heard it and it's talked about.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, sweetie. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. So, well, it was amazing. That stupid Turning the Tables episode. Truthfully, every time somebody gives Louie a stage, it's just, he takes it. He never turns down an opportunity to talk. And every time he speaks, he just makes himself sound worse. He should do himself a favor and just shut the fuck up.
Right. Because people that have a brain see right through it.
Or any emotional intelligence. That's what I really think it is. It's just like emotional intelligence, which Teresa obviously has absolutely zero of. And that's why she's,
she chooses these men that bring her down.
So sad. Yeah, she has no true self-worth. It's all built on other people's perceptions. We will see what happens with Teresa. And I'm very curious to see what happens at that sit down next week, because we're not going to get a reunion.
We didn't need one.
Yeah, we really truthfully, and Andy, I think Andy was right. We were wondering that all season. Is Andy right? He says that we're not going to need it, but
yeah,
but he was absolutely right.
Right.
So next week we will have that to talk about. And I told you about the girl that I met at work. She is a huge Jersey fan. She's actually from Jersey, and she is going to join us next week, and we're going to have like a Jersey Palooza. We'll talk about all of it.
I'm excited to meet her. I followed her last night on Instagram, and Frank Catania Sr. follows her, and Angelina from New Jersey Shore follows her.
Yeah, she is from Jersey. She knows a lot of people. When she was we were only together for like 20 minutes while she was waiting for her appointment, but she is an encyclopedia of Jersey knowledge. So it will be fun.
Yay!
Anyway, baby, so happy to spend this time with you. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Christy May's Garage on Instagram.
Yes, everybody. Christy is the succulent queen of the South Bay. If you need your pots planted, she's your girl. Okay, everybody, that about does it for this episode of Generally Speaking. If you have been watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you reach out and smash that subscribe button. If you've been listening on any of the streaming platforms, please make sure you give us a follow, a 5-star rating. You can leave us a comment. We would love that. If you'd like to follow me on socials, you can find me at TikTok at This Is Generally Speaking or on Instagram at The Jennifer Snook. If you would like to submit a question you'd like answered on the pod, you can reach me by email at jennifer@jennifersnook.com. Chris, show them your Generally Speaking merch.
Generally Speaking.
And if you'd like to get your hands on any of this cute Generally Speaking merch, I will leave the link down below. All right, everybody, I've loved spending this time with you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And until we are together again, Chris, what do we do?
Stay rooted in love.
In love, everybody. See you next time.